Oh, there you are. Man, I'm so excited that you can join us today. I was just finishing up some painting. I'm Mr. Lee, and I wanted to come up with something creative to show you just how much I care about you. I'll finish this painting a little later, and guess what? I'll show it to you. You know, I used to think that being creative meant that you had to be good at drawing or painting, something like that. But it's so much more than that. And you know, we're not creative because of our talents. We're creative because how God made us. We're different from every other creature or species or animal because God made us in His image. And our imagination is a reflection of His image. That's why for the month of August, we'll be talking about creativity. Imagining what you can do because you are made in God's image. Think about that. Imagining what you can do because you're made in God's image. Before we get into worship in today's lesson, let's walk through the 4 parts of faith. Listen, I need your participation, so help me. You ready? You ready? Okay. Now, we use our ears to hear God's word. Remember, we heard that we're made in God's image. We heard that. Next, put your hands over your chest. That's where your heart is. We use our hearts to believe God's word, that I am made in God's image. Now, next, point to your mouth, your lips. We confess it. That means to say it. So I want you to repeat this after me real loud. I am made in God's image. Okay, then we use our hands. That's putting God's word into action, actually doing God's word. So we hear God's word, we believe God's word, we speak, confess God's word, and we put it into action. We actually do God's word. Man, you're working your faith. Great job, great job. Now this month's memory verse comes from Psalms 145, verse 3, and it reads, Lord, you are great. You're really worthy of praise. No one can completely understand how great you are. Yes, He is great. Now, as we spend this month talking about creativity, we want you to focus and remember this week's bottom line. Now, say it out loud when you see it. Good job. Good job. So do something creative with it. Write it down, paint it. You come up with a creative way to remember this week's bottom line. Now, let's get ready to worship God and for this week's Bible story.
I just wanna thank you 'cause everything you made is so beautiful. Every single star and every beat of my heart, and it's beautiful. You made my feet, you made my hands, you made me sing and you make me dance, 'cause your love is all around me, and your love is so astounding. I just wanna thank you 'cause everything you made is so beautiful. Every single star and every beat of my heart, and it's beautiful. Here we go, break it down now. Everything you created with your imagination is wonderful and good, wonderful and good. You're my inspiration beyond all explanation. You're wonderful and good. You're wonderful and good. Everything you wonderful and good. I just wanna thank you, 'cause everything you made is so beautiful. Every single star and every beat of my heart, and it's beautiful. I just wanna thank you, 'cause everything you made is so beautiful. Every single star and every beat of my heart, and it's beautiful.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 13 through 16.
Keisha Jones tied the strings of a large white apron carefully behind her back. She glanced at awe at the gleaming silver countertops and appliances in the kitchen of a cupcakery where her brother Robert worked.
This is amazing.
Yeah, pretty great Myers letting us use the mixer and stove.
Pretty great, you're helping me.
Keisha offered to bake cookies to raise funds for the new marching band uniforms. Even better, she convinced Robert to help her. He clipped a smudged recipe page over the counter.
Brown butter and toffee chocolate chip cookies? Sounds weird.
Trust me, they are the bomb. Robert worked evenings in a bakery for 3 years, so Keisha had to admit, he probably did know. She looked over the recipe.
2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt?
Actually, we're quadrupling the recipe, so that's 4 teaspoons of salt. Robert tossed Keisha a set of measuring spoons.
Cookies are supposed to be sweet. Won't the salt ruin them?
Nope, salt actually brings out the flavors.
What does that even mean?
You want to test it out? Fine. I'll make a batch with salt. You make one without.
You're on.
The siblings worked quickly as Robert showed Keisha how to mix dry ingredients and wet ingredients separately.
What do we do now?
Add the dry ingredients into the wet mix on low speed. Slowly, or you will make a flour storm all over this kitchen.
I knew that.
As Keisha worked, though, she began to hear another sound over the mixer.
Wow, rain's really coming down.
Yeah, and this is such an old building that every time it storms, the power goes out.
I can't see a thing.
Robert fumbled with his phone until the flashlight came on. It always comes back on pretty fast. We can wait it out. Robert settled down on the floor, back against the cabinets. Keisha sighed and sat down too. She checked her phone.
My battery's dying. Entertain me.
What? You can't live without your phone?
I don't know. Tell me a story.
I was just thinking of one. About salt.
Really?
One that Jesus told.
Ooh, that one. Sermon on the Mount.
Well, it fits. You know, the cookies.
Fine. Read it to me, preacher man.
It's in Matthew.
I know that.
Robert settled in with his Bible app. Jesus saw the crowds, so he went up on a mountainside and sat down. Then he began to teach. And pretty quick he gets into this part. You are the salt of the earth.
That's it?
Well, no. I mean, then Jesus talks about throwing out the salt if it loses its saltiness.
How do you even know if you're salty?
I think it's like the cookies. Salt makes things taste better. And people who follow Jesus can make life taste better.
Like chocolate chip cookies.
Robert punched her lightly in the shoulder. You know what I mean. When we share God's story, we bring hope to others. We help to fill their lives with kindness and joy and peace. All that good stuff.
Okay, I get it. Salt, good. There's something about light too, right?
Yep. Jesus says, you are the light of the world. People do not light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand. Then it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine so others can see it. Then they will see the good things you do, and they will bring glory to your Father who is in heaven. Keisha shifted, trying to get comfortable on the hard floor.
So when we follow Jesus,
By showing God's love to others.
when we do that, others can see God better and what to do.
Like a bright light. Yikes! Robert leapt up to try to stop the mixer as the power came on. Keisha stood and stretched, blinking.
Like a bright light. You planned that, huh?
Of course.
Well played. Hey, I'm gonna put salt in my batch of cookies after all.
Well played. As Keisha measured the salt, she smiled. The cookies would have came out great, but she had some thinking to do about ways she can become salt and light herself.
Wow, that was a great lesson. But before you go, I would love to talk to you about salvation and giving your family some next steps. You know, being saved or becoming part of God's family is as easy as ABC. It's just that simple. The A is admitting that you're a sinner. The B is believing that Jesus died for you. And the C is confessing, remember, saying or speaking that Jesus is your Lord. So now, I want you to repeat after me if you want to become a part of God's family. Let's say it real loud. Dear God, I heard how much you love me today. I want to be a part of your family. So I ask Jesus to come into my heart, save me, and be my Lord. Wow, if you just did that, you're in God's family, you're saved forever and ever, and the angels are rejoicing, and so am I. Miss Lee is so proud of you. Now parents, if you or your child received Jesus today, we want you to tell us about it. Just text Faith Chapel to 94,000 and we'll send you more information about being saved. Parents, we've also created resources just for you to use at home. So don't forget to download our weekly activity guides. In the meantime, we would love to see what you are all doing. So remember to share it in the Parents Facebook group. Now remember I told you I was going to show you my painting I had just for you. I was creative to tell you just how much I care about you. And it is that I thank my God every time I remember you. So each and every one of you, when I think about you, I thank God for you. I pray for you. I pray for your safety. I pray that you and your family are just enjoying each other, loving on each other, and I pray that you're healed and whole and free. So, look, thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week.